Hey everybody, welcome to Enjoying Orange Slices with Jeff and Ian. We got a big show for you today. I'm up at the old Corolla Studios, but I recorded it real quick before I came flying up here. Make sure you like, rate, and review, and send it to your friends. Whoop-ah.
Well, hello, Jeff. My name is Ian Bagg. Good to see you. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. We're back on a Monday. I don't
Mm,
know. Yeah, we've kind of been switching around, but we're back. A little bit of inclement weather all over actually the west coast of
that's
the
crazy.
United States and part of Canada. So West British Columbia. So it's been a pretty crazy week, but we're here before we get blown away with all the wind and rain.
Yes, it's raining and windy here, and I'm going to tell a little story about my Friday. So my Friday started out like this. I was flying to a place called Spokane, Washington, home of the Spokane Chiefs out of the WHL. And I flew Delta, and I went to their terminal, and I was just like, holy crap, this is a cluster fuck. They probably whatever club you've ever been to, think about it when it's oversold. That's how many people were bumping into each other. It was crazy, just luggage being run over each other, and the lineup was bad to get in. Even having the TSA pre didn't help me out. So I texted Jeff and I said, "What's going on?" And he said, it's a cluster. And we talked a little bit, and then I got on my plane and I went and did some shows, and then which were fantastic at the Spokane Comedy Club. But Saturday morning, I get a text from Jeff saying, "Where are you?" And I say Spokane, and he goes, "I just flew out of Spokane."
Yeah.
And you were staying at the hotel across from mine. We both were looking at each other. Our hotels faced each other, and we were in the same town. We had no idea. So let's talk about the first thing to bring. What makes a good teammate?
Exactly.
Knowing where the other person is.
No, yeah, and communication maybe. So we talked about you being in Spokane for the last month, and I got up to Spokane, and actually we pretty much were at the airport at the same time. And
Uh-huh.
I looked out my hotel room. I look out, and I think we're at the DoubleTree. Give them a little plug. And I said, I look across and I see this hotel called the Grand, and I'm like, man, like that's a pretty flashy hotel. Looks pretty nice over there.
That's why I'm staying
So,
there.
so I'm in the DoubleTree. Ian can see me from where he is, and I can see him from where I am, but not even a thought in my mind that he
Yeah.
was actually there. So we were like ships in the night. We passed by each other in Spokane within
Would have been
probably
fun.
about 100 feet, and we didn't even know it.
Would have
So
been fun to have you out. Shane Maitland came out to the show. Shane grew up in the same town as us. He ended up playing for Spokane for the Chiefs. I think he won a cup there, whatever, a Memorial Cup. Is it a Memorial?
yeah,
Um, and he ended up going back there to fell in love with a girl and ended up living there in Spokane. That's how his life turned out. So good for Shane. Nice to see him.
yeah, he's good. And of course, I get a text yesterday. Why don't you call me or text me when you're here? I'm like, mates, I didn't know you were. I thought he was out in Western Washington still. So,
I
anyways,
thought
the
this was
whole way around, I toe picked on that one. And I mean, I think I had coffee like almost in the lobby of the Grand as well. Like I just one of those things. So, and then Mates gives it to me. He's like, well, why don't you reach out to me? I'm like, well, why don't you tell me you live there? So,
I'll be honest. Be honest what you said.
yeah,
Anyways, that's our story about missing team buses.
yeah, exactly. Communication, know where your teammate is.
Know where your teammate is. Don't just throw it in the corner. What games did you watch? Did you go to any games this week? Did you see a game? I watched the Vancouver Kraken game on Saturday night in the green room of the club, and I'm not sold on ESPN's whatever they're doing. It seems like a video game, their quality of the screen, and it drives me a little nuts. But wow, what a building that the Kraken have, and pretty exciting in there, even though they lost.
Yeah, it's great to see Vancouver open with them. I watched quite a few games this weekend. We'll be going to a game next week, not this weekend, just due to work and then just the way things worked out away from that. But we can get to the Knights and what's going on there in a little bit. But very good, great night. A little bit of a choppy game with Vancouver. but lots of energy in that building. And the Kraken obviously are having a problem scoring goals, which we thought they might, but they played Vancouver tough. You know, they're in a brand new team, and it's a little bit tougher road for them to hoe than it was for Vegas. But they have a lot of energy up there in Seattle. Great fans. It was a good game, entertaining game, and a guy that to me stole the show for the Canucks. And I'm going to throw it out there right now. Team Canada for the Olympics possibility. Bo Horvat made the difference in the game. Of course, Connor Garland's fitting in real nice in Vancouver right now as well.
Connor Garland was when that trade was made with Phoenix. You said keep an eye on this guy, and he is his third goal of the night with that speed that he had that just took off by that guy just makes that it's going to be worth it once we get going along further into the season. Do you think Seattle made a mistake by not getting a major star such as Fleury, somebody that you can base your team around, maybe going after, maybe getting Carey Price, even though he's not playing right now, or who else wasn't protected? What's his face in San Jose? Not Kane, but Brent Burns, maybe something like that. Something that you there's no real star. The team's the star. There's no real star, and I think that's a little bit of a mistake.
Right. Well, we've talked about this before, and then we'll move on from the Kraken because
he doesn't want to talk about the Kraken because he's a Las Vegas fan.
No, actually, I like the Kraken a lot. They play with a lot of pace. They're going to be fine. It's going to be a little bit of a rough road for them, but Grubauer obviously was a Vezina finalist last year. They signed him as a free agent. Carey Price makes $10 million. Grubauer makes $6 million, right? So economic sense points you in that direction. Plus, he's younger. My only take on Carey Price, and we've talked about this before, is Carey Price played his junior hockey in Tri-Cities, which is Kennewick, Richland, and Pasco, Washington. Thank you, the Tri-Cities. And that's about, I think it's about 3.5, 4.5 hours east of Seattle. He grew up in British Columbia. His wife is from the Tri-Cities area. There's a lot that they could have built on. And I'll just share this with you. You brought up Flowers' name too, Marc-Andre Fleury. When you bring these cornerstone, these guys are superstars in, and Carey Price is hurt right now, so he wouldn't even be playing for him. But if you looked at what happened with Vegas, it was such a buzz. But one of the big reasons it was such a buzz is because Marc-Andre Fleury was here. Now that Marc-Andre Fleury's gone, they've moved on another direction. The team's off to a tough start. Goaltending hasn't been the issue in Vegas. Leonard's played great, but you have a piece of the community as well as the superstar player that's left. In Seattle's case, it might have cost them a lot of money, but from a branding perspective, from a jersey merchandise perspective, and just giving the fans a superstar in net when he's healthy every night, I think would have really helped them. We'll see how it all plays out. I mean, Price is out probably for another 3 or 4 weeks, I'm guessing at least, maybe a little longer. But you would have, even if it was out in Seattle, you would have had this superstar in waiting. And I guarantee you there'd be thousands of Price jerseys, Seattle Kraken Price jerseys, if they would have taken them. They chose to go another direction. And Grubauer, all he did last year was he was a Vezina finalist. So I just, but you're part of the branding, right?
Yeah, I've said it before. Grubauer, a great goalie. When I watch him, the smoothness that he plays in is unbelievable. It's just so fluid. So I'm not going after Grubauer as a goaltender. I'm talking about a star for the long run that makes that team embed in that city and never leave. I think let's go to Las Vegas. Las Vegas, I think, is in trouble. I think they've sucked all, and I know you call them Vegas, and I call them Las Vegas. Mama calls them Clay. I call them Clay. But I think there's trouble. I really do think there's trouble, and I think the reason is there's no not personality, but there's no head on the snake. I don't see a head on the snake in Las Vegas at all.
Right. And we talked about Flower. We've talked about him many times, but this kind of person is affected by him leaving. It's affected the community and the fan base tremendously. And what fixes that, right? Winning fixes it. They've got a ton of injuries here in Vegas right now, but you have a guy that people just loved. And, he was, it's tough. And that's why I look at Seattle and go, I get it. You're probably, Grubauer, younger, top shelf goalie. But if you just take it beyond what's going on the ice, and Fleury, Price, and Grubauer all, when healthy, operated an extremely high, and so does Leonard. These guys are upper echelon goalies in the National Hockey League. All I'm just saying is you also have your fan base and a little bit on the outside to help your brand and grow and create a buzz around your team. In Vegas, I mean, you know what? The first 4 years, they've kind of run up and down the Western Conference, especially the Pacific Division, and done whatever they've wanted. Now, all of a sudden, there's adversity, and that's fine. It doesn't. How's that saying go? It doesn't make you, adversity doesn't build character; it reveals it. So we'll have to wait and see.
Oh, write that down, people.
Yeah. Hey. Well, but I do want to kind of get away from them a little bit and just talk about the final 4 teams from last year. Vegas and Montreal are Montreal's 1-5, Vegas is 1-4. Their power plays both teams struggle to score. Their power plays have been awful. Okay, so that puts so much that puts so much more stress on your 5v5 play and your penalty killing. The Islanders are 3-2, and Tampa Bay is 2-2. Now Tampa Bay's power play and their penalty killing is okay. Tampa Bay looks a little bit further ahead than the rest, but the Islanders were here last night playing Vegas. And yeah, they shut it down. Sorokin played unbelievable, got a shutout, but the Islanders still aren't themselves either. Part of that could be a 13-game road trip they're on to start the season before they get to play at home. But if you look at the final 4 teams from last year, all of them are scuffling, but Montreal and Vegas are obviously scuffling more. And it's the salary cap era, so it's nice to see other teams step up. Edmonton's 5-0. Florida's 5-0. Carolina's undefeated. Washington undefeated. So
can I bring up? Can we stop at Edmonton for a second? Edmonton's games have been Vancouver, right? Who else have they played? They've played
Arizona, Vegas, and Calgary. But they're 5-0. They got someone else in there that they played at home. Oh,
yeah, everybody's excited about their 5-0, but I don't think they've really been tested. I think Vancouver was close. Vegas has been playing horrible. Calgary is Calgary, and Arizona should be moved down to the AHL. So, when everybody's getting excited about that, it's interesting. I've been trying to look at it to see if teams are struggling because they're actually having to travel now, more. Yeah. So some teams might be doing that, but then you look at Tampa and you go, okay, they're just trying to figure out who they're going to put on the IR for the long term so they can spend $14 million more during this season.
Well, don't forget, this year, the Pacific, and I guess the Western Conference in general, with Seattle coming in, you play in your division 4 times instead of 5. Mm-hmm. So to me, the divisional games are even more important than they were before because you don't get an extra crack at these guys, and so, yeah, Vegas, Edmonton might be playing. I like Vancouver this year, but Edmonton they're already 4-0 in their division. Okay. Mm-hmm. So even though you're only going to play Washington and Tampa Bays of the world and all the Bostons and those guys out there, you're only going to play them twice anyways. So Edmonton's doing what they have to do so far, and their power play is like at 85% or something. It's insane, how good, and that's what's going to keep them in it. The power play is what's hurt the teams that are scuffling right now.
I don't want to give them a tip out of the hat, but I'll tip the hat to them. Good for them. Okay. I will tip the hat to San Jose. San Jose is playing great.
Yeah.
And that was one of the teams that we were laughing at that we thought would not be playing well.
So, they've taken some stress out of that dressing room, right? And they seem to be just playing. And again, this is what the salary cap era is all about, is creating a level playing field. You see it in the NFL all the time, minus whatever team Tom Brady's on. But, a quarterback obviously makes a huge difference there. But the salary cap in football is put in there to make sure everyone's got a chance. The same thing in hockey. It's kind of loose in baseball. You still have your big market teams being able to do what they want. But yeah, it is. And I want to talk about Colorado and Tampa for a sec. I watched them on Saturday night. Watched a bunch of games on Saturday. And I'll tell you, that was on, and Vegas goes into Colorado on Tuesday for their next game. And Nate McKinnon was flying around there. And your buddy, and I give you credit for this one, Steve Stamkos, I think he's got 7 points in 4 games. And you asked about him in Team Canada. If he keeps going like this, they're going to have a hard time looking away from him. So I watched 2 teams the other night. The difference in the game was that Colorado ended up winning it. But the difference I saw when it comes down to playoff times is Colorado's just got a little bit more youth. And if those guys keep growing during the season, Colorado is going to be a handful again, and with another year under their belt, with a little bit more experience. Kemper's playing great in goal for them. So it was a great game to watch. Really enjoyed it. And of course, then we watched Pittsburgh beat up on Toronto a little bit too. But
I love it. We'll go to Pittsburgh, Toronto right now. When the jersey came flying on the ice afterwards, that's my favorite part. That's how you know you got rich fans, when they just chuck their jersey out and then they go buy another one the next day. So they're struggling in Toronto. And remember, I said they would be number 1 going into the All-Star break, and so far they just threw fingers up at me and said, "Fuck you, Bagg." That's not they seem to be not growing mentally. Do you know what I mean? Like, when you look at them, you're like, they're so talented, but nobody's taking the next step to being a man. I don't want to say man, because they're men, but nobody's stepping the next step. Nobody's doing the extra. I know that's cliche, doing the extra effort. It's just not. It's just like, man,
Yeah, the thing in Toronto is, obviously there's an extreme amount of pressure on those guys to perform every day. They all know it. Doesn't make it any easier to handle it. But one of the things I noticed with the Leafs, especially the other night, because I watched a good portion of them play in Pittsburgh, is the game's going along fine, everything's great, and all of a sudden you kind of get an iffy goal against it. And it was 1-1, I think it went 2-1 Pittsburgh. The defenseman Matheson did a wraparound. He got kind of wide on one of the D, and then he wrapped it, and maybe Jack Campbell, we would have hoped normally he'd pick that off. It didn't. It went off him and in. Well, then within 3 minutes or 4 minutes, they put another 2 or 3 goals in. It was just an insane amount. This game was tight. It was a good game. Then it went 2-1. Then Toronto went 3-1 Pittsburgh. The coach takes a timeout and just kind of, hey, boys, we need to settle down. And one of the things that you see when teams score back-to-back very quickly on another team is, first thing you point to focus. And then you're like, system. Are we first of all focused? Do we know what we're doing in our system? Because the first shift after a goal for, or the next shift after a goal for against, is a massive shift, right? Because you've got to either keep the momentum going if you scored or you want to, or you've got to stop the momentum if you were scored on. So Toronto, just tons of pressure. And of course, they're throwing jerseys on the ice already, 5-6 games in the season. I don't know what's.
I'm gonna take mine back about what somebody, them not maybe making the extra effort. I'm gonna step back after you described what happened. I think they're blaming, like everybody's blaming instead of taking responsibility.
Well, you look at body language, you look at it on the ice, and then you look at it in interviews after the game with these guys. And like last night, we were watching the interviews after the Vegas game when they lost to the Islanders, and you just see in their body language, they're frustrated. Vegas is playing a lot better than they did at the start of the season. They just can't get anything to go. Toronto, it just absolutely looked listless the other night when things started to go against them. And, don't forget, whether your team's in first place, your team's in last place right now, just remember the St. Louis Blues. Last place 2-3 seasons ago, made a run for the Roses, won the Stanley Cup ultimately. Very rare to do that, but in today's NHL, they've shown it's possible. It doesn't make it any less frustrating.
Write it down right now. You just got to get into the playoffs.
Yep. But you can't be the percentages of you making it when you're that far out, are very low. but they found lightning in a bottle in St. Louis a couple of years ago. So it is possible, but you got to be healthy, and you have to have obviously great goaltending, and you got to
Personality and grit. You got to have it all.
yeah.
But you got to make it to the playoffs. And it's hard not to look at these teams, and go, why are they not doing what I expected them to do? But at the end of the day, one team has to win and one team has to lose every night.
Yep.
So you're not always going to win. You're hopefully not always going to lose, unless you're not the Buffalo Sabres this year, because they have been doing very well.
Yes.
Maybe it's Jack Eichel is the problem in that dressing room.
Yeah, 1-1 or something. So let's give Buffalo some props. They have had a history of maybe getting a decent start and then kind of dropping like 15 or 20 in a row. But let's hope Buffalo stays with it this year. Again, you got some distractions out of the locker room right now there, and guys are getting a chance and they're doing it. And let's not forget, we talked about Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh is playing without Malkin and Crosby, and then I think Letang just tested for COVID, so he's out as well. So they're winning, and it's just the pack mentality in Pittsburgh right now, and good for them.
I think if I was a press person or general manager or something like that, and we were putting somebody on waivers, I would say this instead of just we're putting him on waivers. He's tested positive for being a douche. Does he have COVID? Nope, he's just a douche, and we're getting rid of him. Thank you very much. I love what's going on in the league. It's very exciting. All the coverage, watching TNT, watching it around. We do have some questions today that we're going to get to. Any other teams? Any games that's coming up? Any games coming up this week that you're looking forward to seeing before
we talked about Carolina being in Toronto tonight, which is the return of Freddie Anderson.
Mm-hmm.
I remember some people, Luciano Casamare, that were happy to drive Freddie Anderson to the airport to get him out of Toronto. All of a sudden, he's back tonight. So if you want to watch a game, if you don't get this until after that game's over tonight, watch Vegas and Colorado tomorrow. It looks like Colorado's starting to wake up. Obviously, Vegas is in desperate need of a victory. So that's another one to keep an eye on. And then obviously you got New York's up in Seattle as well tomorrow night, which is Tuesday, which the Islanders, which is kind of unfortunate they're playing each other so early in the season, but keep an eye open for that one too. Maybe the Kraken can catch New York Islanders at the end of a long road trip.
Nice. If you're into goaltender battles, it should be there tonight with North Carolina and Toronto, North Hamilton, as I like to call it.
North Hamilton.
That's what I call Toronto. Didn't even get anything out of you. What's the point? Here we go.
Another game for you Wednesday. I was trying to remember another one. Boston and Florida. That's another big one. So
Boston is up and down. They're not totally.
Well, but they always seem to be there. Like they're kind of always around it, right? So I like them. So we'll see.
Here we go. We got a question from Mr. Basante coming in. We got a Mr. question. Hey, Ian, loving the podcast. Got a couple questions for you and Mr. Sharples. How many do you think McDavid will get this year? That's the first question. What do you think? I think he's going to get 50.
Yeah, it's you know what, he's obviously got every part of his game. He's been working on the one-timer on his off wing on the power play, which is a new one this year. I think he got one the other night. It might have been against Calgary. I don't remember. Might have been Vancouver early on. But he creates. One of the things, he's such a great player all around. But I would say 40, in the 40s somewhere. And the reason I say that is because he draws so many people to him that the other guys are so wide open. He just dishes it over to them. And a lot of times they have tap-ins or wide open net, grade A chances. So I'm going to say McDavid's going to get in the 40s. And I think, watching him play the other night here in Vegas and the night before in Arizona, his guys just, the whole rink panics when he gets the puck. I mean, he's incredible. Mm-hmm. And I expect him to lead Team Canada gold medal over there in Beijing. Is it Beijing this year? Yeah, it is.
Yeah,
so,
it is.
Yeah, I think he has a big year, and Edmonton stays healthy. and they get some secondary scoring in the playoffs, and any kind of goaltending, they could be a handful. But they will score a ton.
He will score a ton for Edmonton, and that will ride on his back. Here, the second part of this question is actually quite a good one. It's got a two-parter, maybe even a three-parter. Who is the best coach in the NHL right now?
Oh, that's a great question. You want to give who you think?
I would say Coops in Tampa would be the number one coach in the NHL right now, and that will disturb some of my friends that are out there running around. They'll just stab me in the face next time I see him. But I think Coops is yeah.
It's pretty tough. Yeah, I'll go with someone else, but it's pretty tough to argue against John Cooper. And of course, the first thing you could say is, oh, look at the talent he's got, but talent doesn't equal wins, right? Talent's one step away from lazy. So,
which also
motivate that talent.
Remember they won that won the whole league, the President's Trophy that year, and then got swept by that horrible team in Columbus. So that proves it right there. It's not just talent, right?
There's a lot more going on in Tampa Bay, but they've got this winning culture there now and the way they do things. And he's done a good job of managing all of that. And so, you would have to put him in near the top. A guy I like, he got a little bit of heat last year. He's going to get some more heat if they don't get to the promised land this year, though. I really like Jared Bednar in Colorado. And there's a couple guys I like out there as well, but I'll go with Bednar in Colorado just because he took over just like a garbage sandwich after Patrick Waugh left there, and they got beat up, and they really they're learning as they go, right? Vegas got a little bit, the experience in the Vegas series last year helped Vegas get by them, but you can tell by watching McKinnon, Landeskog, Rantanen, Makar, Darcy Kemper and goalie, they probably got a little bit of upgrade in goal, and they upgraded their defense a little bit. So I like him. I think he's done a great job with those guys, and we'll see what Colorado does. And if I had an honorable mention, I think another guy to keep an eye on, a team to keep an eye on this year, is the New York Rangers with our old friend Spuddy, Gerard Gallant.
Yeah, you can't go. There's a lot of good ones out there, and also
there's a bunch. Yeah, I don't know if there's a clear cut.
Alan Vigneault, he's a good coach too as well. And if you're tired, he'll give you a pill. Oh, look at this! I got some sort of ghost coming into my room. His second part of that question is he wants to know who your best coaches were, coaches were, and then podcast is awesome.
There's two guys I'll go with, and I'm sure all of my ex-coaches watch this podcast, so they were all great. But two guys that I really liked was Barry Melrose. I played for him in Adirondack in Detroit's American League in the system, and I really, really liked Barry. Then he went on to LA. Wish I could have played for him more. He was really at that kind of coach at that time in the profession was fantastic. And another guy I really like playing for, and he does the color for the Islanders now, TV, is Butch Goring. Butch, he was hilarious. I'll never forget one day we were at practice, and this was when I was in Salt Lake in the IHL, and it was snowing crazy. And we were up on the east side in the foothills, beautiful practice rink. He was getting all fired up. He was all mad at us. And he had driven his convertible Corvette to the practice rink. And he goes ripping out of the parking lot and bottoms it out with about 3 feet of snow on top of it. He called practice early. He was mad at us because he didn't like the way practice was going. He went up to the ski hill in his Corvette. So
oh my God, that's the most Canadian. That's the most Canadian thing I've ever heard.
Yeah, Butchie's awesome. He had the best line ever. He goes, "You guys think I'm going down? I'm taking you guys down with me. I'm not going down." So, like you talk about adversity, and then we won the Turner Cup. Might have been that year. So, it's not always a bed of roses for all these teams. But I like Barry and Butchie, kind of two different guys, but both really successful at what they did, and fun guys, good guys.
Love it. Got any shout outs this week?
Yeah, well, I talked about this guy earlier, but I'm gonna bring him up again. I'm gonna shout out to Bo Horvat. This guy just gets better and better every year. I love watching him play. I loved him since he came in the league. I believe they traded what was the keeper they traded out to New Jersey to get the draft pick to draft Horvat. They got Horvat.
Corey Schneider.
Corey Schneider. So Corey Schneider was a heck of a goalie too, but they got Horvat in that deal years ago. And what a foundation piece. Vancouver, I really like what's going on there this year. Demko looks great, but shout out to Bo Horvat. Just stood on his head the other night in the first game, home game for the Kraken, scored 2 goals, made it look easy, and wins draws nonstop. So look for him as a candidate for Team Canada in the Olympics.
Nice. I have no shout outs this week. I just love the whole world. Everybody's equal. You're all fantastic. Everybody just have a good time. No shout outs for me. Thanks, Jeff. Love talk.
Hey, love talk. No, that's it. Love talk.
Love talk.
Well, I hope you enjoyed another episode of Enjoying Orange Slices. We got some great questions in there from Mr. Basante, so make sure you send questions in because we always enjoy answering them. Share this with your friends, rate, like, and review.